Hey everybody, it's Mrs. Conway here. Now it is time to learn about powers of a power, is what I like to call it, is the power rule. So this is for when you have a power raised to a power. So you're going to see something inside parentheses with an exponent on the outside of the parentheses. That's what this is for. So I like to call this the power to a power rule. And what's going on here is we've got x to some power, and then that's to another power. So like if you had, right here we have x squared to the fifth, so that would be like x squared times x squared times x squared times x squared times x squared 5 times, which means you have 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 total x's. So what's going on here is we're actually doing x squared 5 times. Well, we have an operation for that. It's called multiplication. So when you have x to the a raised to the b power, that's the same thing as x to the a times b power. So the way I like to say that is when you have power to a power, you multiply the powers. And that's just kind of the little thing that I like to say to remember it. So let's do that. Okay, so let's do a couple. So that first one, x to the second to the fifth, x squared to the fifth, is x to the 10. Well, now here we have two things inside of the parentheses. We have m to the 7th, n to the 4th, all raised to the 4th power, which means you're doing everything inside the parentheses 4 times. So what I like to do with those is you kind of use the distributive property, which in a way it kind of is like the distributive property. So you have m to the 7th, the 4th power, and you have n to the 4th to the 4th power. So now you would multiply both of those. So you'd get m to the 28, n to the 16. Now if you wanted, you could skip this middle step here and just go straight to multiplying 7 times 4 and 4 times 4. But then the big thing to pay attention here is, what if we don't have a power? Now remember, if there's no power written on C, that means it's c to the first power. So when you do this sort of distributive step here, when you do to the third power to both of these, it's c to the first cubed. 1 times 3 is 3, so it'll be c to the third. And then d, 2 times 3 is, so d to the 6th. So c to the third, d to the 6th is what I would get for that one. This is m to the 28 power, n to the 16 power. Alright, so that's what we do if it's just variables. Now, sometimes you're going to have coefficients. That's numbers that are out in front of the variables, if you don't remember. So right here, now we've got 5x to the 7th squared. So it's the same kind of thing. We have to do the second power to the 5, and we also have to do it to the 7. So what we want to do there is we want to do 5 squared, and then we also want to do x to the 7th squared. So that's going to be x to the 14. Well, then we have to actually do 5 squared. 5 squared is 25, because 5 times 5 is 20, x to the 14. So that's it. That's how you do those ones. So I'll just do a couple more of these examples with you, because then you're going to practice some delta math. So right here you've got 2x squared y to the power of 5. So that's going to be, you're going to have to do 2 to the 5th power, and then you're going to have x squared to the 5th, which is, remember, when you have power to a power, you multiply 10, x to the 10. And then y doesn't have an exponent, so it's going to be y to the 5th. And now we need to actually do 2 to the 5th power. The big thing to pay attention here is when you have the coefficient, You're not using the power to a power rule because that's not a power, that's a number. You have to actually do 2 to the 5th power, which is 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 2, which is 32. So you have 32 x to the 10th power, y to the 5th power is going to be your final answer on that one. Alright, let's do a couple more of these. And then what I'm going to have you do is go work on your delta. After we finish number 9, I'm going to have you do the first section of the Delta Math assignment so you can just practice just this skill a little bit. So number 6 is going to be negative 2 p to the 4th q to the 6th squared. So we're squaring everything inside of here. And this is one of those things that comes up. If you're using a calculator, which you probably should be, you have to be really aware. When you put negative 2 squared in your calculator, it's going to do 2 squared, make that negative. That's not what we want to do here. We want to do negative 2 squared. You have to put those parentheses in your calculator or it is going to give you the wrong answer. Because we know that negative 2 times negative 2 is positive 4. But if you were to just put negative 2 squared without parentheses in your calculator right now, it would give you negative 4, and we know that's not the right answer. So this is going to be negative 2 squared, p to the 4 times 2 is 8, q to the 12th. So the next one, oh, we didn't finish this one yet. So we have negative 2 squared, p to the 8th, q to the 12th. Well, that's going to be 4, and then p to the 8th, q, your final answer. You just have to make sure you actually multiply or do that power in your calculator or, in your head if you know what 2 squared is. Okay, now we have negative 4, c to the 3rd, d to the 4th, all to the 4th power. So I want you to hit pause right now, and I want you to attempt this problem. And then when you hit play, you'll get to see me do it and see if you did it right or not. So here's what I get. So I got negative 4 to the 4th, c to the 12th, and negative 4 to the 4th, evaluate, is 256. Okay, yeah, didn't have that one memorized. This is 256, c to the 12th, d to the 16th. Alright, and then here, worked ahead a little bit by now, but if you want to hit pause and then try this yourself before you see what the answer is, you have negative 3 to the 3rd, which is negative 3 to the 3rd, x to the 2 times 3 is 6. So negative 3 to the 3rd, that's going to be negative 9. This time it is negative, because a negative times a negative is a positive, but then another negative is going to give us a negative. So it's negative 9. No, not 9. Sorry, guys. Negative 27. Because 3 times 3 is 9. 3 times another 3 is 27. Okay. And that is our final answer. And then last we have a fraction. And when you do the biggest thing to pay attention here is when you do a fraction to an exponent. So if you have 1/2 cubed, you're going to cube the top, which is the numerator, and the bottom, the denominator, of the fraction. So 1 to the 3rd power is 1, and 2 to the 3rd power is 8. This would be a cube is a to the 9th, b to 12th, c to the 15th. So we'd have 1 over 8, a to the 9, b to the 12, c to the 15th. And technically, all of this is in the numerator with the 1. You can think of it as 1/8 out front if you want as well. Alright, there we go. That is how we do power to a power. So now what you need to do is you're going to go ahead and do the first section of the Delta Math assignment. So good luck.